Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The rain hadn't stopped all day. I stood in the front hallway of our modest Connecticut home, the kind of place where neighbors wave from behind picket fences, watching the storm roll in through the bay window. The house smelled like leftover takeout and wet leaves. Then I heard the front door click. Jenna walked in, umbrella dripping, cheeks flushed from the cold, and draped over her shoulders, a man's leather jacket. Not a sleek fashion piece. This thing had weight, age, the kind of wear that came from years of use, not from a department store shelf. I didn't even wait. Whose jacket is that? She paused mid-step, blinked. Her expression barely flickered. It's Amanda's. Well, Amanda's boyfriend's. I got cold after work. She loaned it to me. I crossed my arms slowly. Amanda's boyfriend? The one who lives in Boston? Jenna hesitated for just a second too long. He was visiting. She picked me up from the office today. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. So Amanda brought her boyfriend along to pick you up, and you ended up in his jacket? Not hers. Jenna's voice sharpened. Why are you interrogating me like this? It's just a jacket, Michael. I didn't blink. No, Jenna. A jacket is something you toss in the back seat. This was draped on you like it belonged there. She let out a breath through her nose, forced a smile. You always do this. Take one little thing and twist it into some huge story. Because you lie like it's second nature, I snapped. That hit her. Her smile fell. Excuse me. I've been quiet, Jenna. Patient. But tonight, you walked into this house smelling like someone else's cologne wearing someone else's jacket, and you think I'm going to let it slide? You're being paranoid, she said coldly. And you're being sloppy, I shot back. You think I can't tell when you're hiding something? She turned toward the stairs, voice tight. I'm not doing this with you right now. Of course you're not. Because I'm not buying the story and you didn't think that far ahead. She stopped mid-step and looked back at me. You want to know the truth, Michael? You suffocate everything you touch. That's why I lie. I went still. Her words hung there, cutting deep. Jenna looked away quickly, like she hadn't meant to say it out loud. Then, quieter. I just wanted to avoid a fight. I stared at her, jaw tight. Then maybe don't come home dressed in someone else's lie. She flinched, but didn't reply. Just turned and walked up the stairs, slow, like she didn't want to be heard, but not fast enough to be innocent. I stood there in the dim hallway, the sound of rain pounding the roof above us, knowing one thing for sure. That wasn't just a jacket. It was the start of something neither of us would be able to walk back from. The next morning, the rain had stopped, but the sky still hung heavy, gray, stretched thin like worn-out fabric. I didn't sleep much. I'd spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, the jacket tossed across the bench at the foot of our bed like a loaded weapon. Jenna didn't say goodnight. She stayed on her side, scrolling on her phone in silence until the screen dimmed. I waited until she left for work before grabbing the jacket and heading out. Amanda lived on the other side of town, third-floor walk-up in a red brick apartment complex that always smelled like burned toast and incense. We weren't exactly close. She and Jenna had known each other since college, but I always got the sense Amanda liked me more in theory than in person. I rang the buzzer. A moment passed. Then her voice crackled through the speaker. Hello. Amanda. It's Michael. Another pause. Longer this time. Everything okay? Need to ask you something. In person. The door buzzed open. When she opened her apartment door, Amanda was in leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, hair tied up. She looked surprised, concerned, even, but not alarmed. I held the jacket up before she could say anything. Recognize this? Amanda raised an eyebrow. Okay. Good morning to you too. It was on Jenna last night. She said it's yours. Or your boyfriend's. Amanda looked at the jacket again, this time more closely. Her brow furrowed. That's not Nate's. I've never seen that jacket before in my life. I stood there, jaw tight. So she didn't borrow it from you? No. Amanda said slowly, folding her arms. But, yeah, she did stop by for a few minutes yesterday. Dropped off some documents for work. Was anyone with her? Amanda tilted her head. No, she was alone. Why? I nodded once, lips pressing into a line. The confirmation hit hard, even though I'd already known. Amanda leaned against the doorframe, voice softer now. Michael, is everything okay between you two? I didn't answer right away. I folded the jacket over my arm like it suddenly weighed 50 pounds. She lied, I said finally, straight to my face. Amanda stayed quiet for a moment. Then she said carefully, Jenna's been weird lately. I didn't want to say anything, but the last couple times we talked, she's been distant. A little defensive. I just figured it was work stress. Yeah, I muttered. Work stress. I turned to go. Thanks, Amanda. She reached out slightly. Michael, if something's going on, don't just let it simmer. I gave a tight nod. I'm not. I walked back down those concrete steps without another word. Outside, the sky was beginning to drizzle again, a fine mist settling on the windshield as I got back into my car. I tossed the jacket into the passenger seat. It thudded softly, like it had finally given up the lie. I gripped the steering wheel for a moment before starting the car. The engine purred, soft and steady, but my thoughts were a mess of sharp edges. The quiet rage building inside me wasn't loud. It didn't shout. It just sat there, still, cold, and growing. I didn't know who the jacket belonged to, but I knew it didn't belong in my house. That evening, I waited. I sat at the kitchen island in our quiet house, pretending to scroll through emails while the jacket hung over the back of a chair, on full display, like a witness called to testify. The soft ticking of the wall clock was the only sound until I heard Jenna's car pull into the driveway. Her footsteps approached the door. My pulse didn't race. No, I was far beyond that. This wasn't shock anymore. This was something slower, sharper. She walked in with that usual lift in her chin, dropping her purse on the side table like nothing had happened. The moment she saw the jacket, her eyes locked on it. And just for a second, her mask slipped. Then it was back. Calm. Polished. You left that out? She asked lightly, like she was talking about a dish towel. I didn't smile. You mean the jacket you said Amanda lent you? She gave a tiny shrug and opened the fridge. Yeah, you didn't have to dig it out. I was going to return it. I stood slowly. Funny thing that. I returned it today. Her back stiffened just slightly. I stepped around the island, resting my hands on the counter between us. I saw Amanda, I said clearly. Drove to her place. Handed her the jacket. She looked confused. Said it wasn't hers. Said it wasn't her boyfriend's either. Jenna froze. One hand still holding a bottle of sparkling water. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, with a faint laugh, well, maybe she forgot. She's kind of scatterbrained. You know that. No, Jenna, I said, keeping my voice calm. She didn't forget. She was certain. Jenna turned, finally meeting my gaze. Her expression was unreadable, cool, practiced. You drove all the way across town just to fact-check me? I nodded. You lied to my face. I didn't want to fight, she said quickly, setting the bottle down harder than she meant to. You always overreact, Michael. You jump to conclusions, you don't listen, don't turn this around, I said. My voice wasn't raised, but it cut through the kitchen like a blade. You lied. About where the jacket came from. About who you were with. And now you're spinning it like I'm the problem? She pressed her lips together and shook her head, voice rising. Because every time I say something you don't like, you act like I've committed some crime. I was cold, I grabbed a jacket, and I didn't want to get grilled about it, so I said Amanda's. That's it. You want to destroy our marriage over a coat? I stared at her. Is that what you think this is about? The coat? Jenna's hands were trembling now, but her voice pushed through. You've become obsessed. You don't trust me, and you're always watching. I need space, Michael. Space. I repeated, stunned by the casualness of it. You want space? From me? Because I asked who gave you a jacket? No. Because I'm tired of walking on eggshells, she snapped. Of being watched. Judged. I've been thinking about it for a while now. Maybe we need time apart. That hit me square in the chest. But I didn't let it show. I just breathed in, slowly. Then call a lawyer. Jenna's eyes widened. What? You said you've been thinking about it, I said, voice steady. So stop thinking. If you want space, go file for divorce. She blinked, caught off guard by how fast I said it. Michael. Wait. You didn't mean to say it out loud, I said. But you've thought it. So don't dangle it like a threat. If you're done, say it. Her voice softened, cracking at the edges. I didn't say I was done. I let that sit. For a long moment, we just stood there in the kitchen, surrounded by the smell of garlic from last night's dinner, the low hum of the fridge, and something else far heavier. I didn't cheat, she whispered suddenly. It's my coworker's jacket. I didn't want to deal with your jealousy, so I panicked. I lied. That's all. Name, I said. What? His name. She hesitated. I didn't move. She looked down. Landon. Landon who? She looked back up, defiant now. Why does that matter? Because if you're telling the truth now, you shouldn't have to hide anything. Jenna stepped back. This is insane. I'm not going to give you a list of everyone I've spoken to this week like I'm under interrogation. I nodded once. Then we're done here. She bit her lip, looking shaken. You don't mean that. I didn't answer. She turned away, then back. Michael, I swear, I just didn't want another scene. I didn't think the jacket would matter. It didn't, I said quietly. The lie did. Jenna stared at me for another few seconds like she wanted to say something else, something real. But whatever it was, she swallowed it. Then she walked out of the kitchen, and I didn't follow. 3 days passed like smoke through a cracked window, quiet, curling, and heavy with tension. Jenna and I moved through the house like we were guests in someone else's home. Polite, careful, emotionless. No more fighting, but that didn't mean peace. It meant distance. She stopped leaving her coffee mug in the sink. I stopped asking where she was going. We passed each other in the hallway like co-workers who'd once shared something real and couldn't bring themselves to look at it anymore. Then, one Thursday evening, just before sunset, I came home to find her suitcase by the door. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, her phone face down beside her, hands clasped like she'd rehearsed whatever was coming. Hey, she said, too casual. I looked at the suitcase. Going somewhere. She stood slowly, brushing invisible lint off her jeans. Yeah, just for a few days. Girls' vacation. Amanda and some of the other girls planned a quick trip to the coast. I raised an eyebrow. Amanda? The one who was apparently so scatterbrained she forgot her own jacket? Jenna's smile flickered. Michael, you're really going with Amanda? I asked, stepping in just a little. Or is that another placeholder name you think I won't verify? Her eyes flared, just for a second. Don't do this. Don't do what? I said, voice even. Ask questions? Or notice when my wife lies to my face and then leaves town with a suitcase and a made-up alibi. She walked toward the door and gripped the handle like it gave her strength. I need air. No, I said, leaning on the frame. You need an exit. Jenna looked over her shoulder, expression guarded. Michael, I'm not running. You packed a suitcase without saying a word. That's not a vacation. That's an escape plan. She didn't reply. I stepped aside, slowly, like I was giving her permission to keep lying. If you want to leave, Jenna, leave. But don't pretend this is anything other than what it is. Her fingers tightened around the handle. I can't breathe here anymore. Every conversation feels like a trap. I don't even recognize us. Yeah, I said. That's what happens when you bring someone else's smell into the house and pretend it's perfume. She flinched, but still didn't stop. She opened the door halfway, pausing in the light that spilled in from the porch. The air outside was crisp, cooler than it should have been for early spring. I just need to think, she said. Sort things out. I nodded once, slowly. Take your time. But understand this. Every time you walk away instead of facing me, you're deciding who we are. Jenna turned her head slightly, eyes glassy. I didn't mean for things to get like this. Yeah, I said. Neither did I. She hesitated, then stepped out. The door shut gently behind her with a soft click that sounded louder than any slam. I didn't follow. I just stood in the silence, staring at that empty spot by the door where the suitcase had been. It wasn't just the suitcase that was gone. It was the last illusion that we were still trying. The day after Jenna left, I called someone I never thought I'd need. Eddie Lang, a private investigator recommended by a coworker who'd quietly gone through his own storm the year before. Eddie wasn't flashy. He showed up at the diner wearing a flannel shirt and jeans, sipping black coffee like he didn't have a care in the world. But when I slid Jenna's photo across the table, the shift in his expression was instant. Focused. Sharp. Where's she headed? He asked. She said it's a girl's trip. Coastal town. Said Amanda planned it. I replied. He raised an eyebrow. And Amanda knows nothing about it. I nodded. She looked shocked when I mentioned it. I think she was trying not to get involved. Eddie tucked the photo into his folder. All right, I'll get eyes on her. 3 days. Maybe less. He was right. It only took 2.5. By the time he called, I was pacing the house like a ghost. Jenna hadn't texted. Not even a half-hearted, made it safe. Just silence. I met Eddie outside his office just past noon. Overcast sky. Cold wind. He didn't bother with small talk. Just handed me an envelope. Photos are all time-stamped. Location's on the back, he said. And there's one other thing you should know. The guy she's with? He's not local. My contact ran a quick trace. No hits in the system. No visa, no work permit, nothing. Far as the government's concerned, he's not supposed to be here. I stared at the envelope in my hands like it might explode. You okay? Eddie asked. I nodded, throat tight. I will be. He gave me a firm handshake and left me alone in the parking lot, the envelope still unopened. I didn't get in the car right away. I stood there, fingers trembling just slightly as I peeled back the flap. The first photo hit like a gut punch. There she was, Jenna, wearing that sundress I hadn't seen in a year, the one she used to say made her feel light. She was on a beach, laughing, tangled up in the arms of a man I didn't recognize. Short beard, tanned, shirt half unbuttoned, and her mouth was on his like she didn't even remember what it felt like to come home. The next photo? Her in a lounge chair, resting her head on his chest, fingers tracing circles on his arm. No ring. Not even the faint tan line where it used to be. Photo after photo, they were intimate in a way that didn't just hint at betrayal, they shouted it. And through it all, Jenna looked relaxed, carefree, like she hadn't left a husband behind at all. I sat in the driver's seat, the photos spread across my lap. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just stared. And in that numb silence, something inside me hardened. Eddie had written a short note on the last page. Subject appears entirely unguarded. Not hiding anything. That's usually a sign they've already let go. I drove home with the envelope buckled into the passenger seat beside me like a cruel companion. Back in the kitchen, I laid the photos out on the counter. I studied every frame like they were evidence in a case I never agreed to be part of. But the jury was in. And the truth? It was colder than I ever imagined. But it gave me clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I'd been lied to. And now, I knew exactly what I was dealing with. That night, the house didn't feel like mine. It was quiet, sure, but not the kind of quiet you grow used to after years of living with someone. This was emptier. Dead space. Jenna's absence used to mean she'd be back. Now, every corner she wasn't in reminded me she'd left. And worse, that she'd moved on before even telling me she wanted to. I sat in the living room, staring at my phone. Not scrolling, just staring. The envelope from Eddie was still on the table, but the images were burned into my brain anyway. Jenna on that beach. Her fingers in that man's hair. Her eyes closed, mouth open against his. It wasn't a one-time thing. The body language said everything. This was a woman who wasn't afraid of being seen. She wanted to be seen. I opened her social media, not expecting anything. She hadn't posted in days. But then I remembered. She used to record everything. Stories, clips, filters. But lately, she'd been quiet. Too quiet. So I checked her old shared folder. The one we used to drop our favorite trip videos in. She didn't know it was still synced. And there it was. A short clip, uploaded that morning. Jenna, smiling in front of a beachside cafe, sunglasses perched on her head, wind catching her hair just right. She was filming herself and that same man from the photos. She leaned into him. He wrapped his arm around her waist. And then, with a little laugh, she said it. No ring, no rules, right? He smiled. She laughed again. The video cut off right there. I didn't move for a full minute. My jaw locked. My spine went stiff. Then I stood, walked upstairs, opened our dresser drawer. And there, tucked under some old receipts and holiday cards, was her engagement ring. She hadn't lost it. She had put it away. I held it in my palm for a second, then placed it against a plain white background on the nightstand and snapped a photo. I sat back down, attached the picture to a text, and typed, "You forgot something." It took her less than 5 minutes to reply. Jenna. Oh, I must have taken it off at the beach. Just forgot to put it back on. No big deal. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I typed back, "Enjoy your last trip with him," and hit send. I blocked the number right after. No typing bubbles. No backpedaling. Just silence. Real, clean silence. I leaned back on the couch, the ring still resting beside me. And for the first time since this mess began, I didn't feel like I was losing something. I felt like I was finally putting it down. While we're here, please press like and let me know you're with me. The phone rang less than a minute after I blocked her number. Not my personal cell, no. Jenna was smarter than that. She called the landline, the one we almost never used. I'd thought about unplugging it a dozen times. That night, I wished I had. But I answered. "Hello. Michael." Her voice was frantic. "Michael, don't hang up." I didn't say anything. She took my silence as permission to keep going. "I just got your text. Please, You have it all wrong. The guy, he's not who you think. His name's Mateo. He's just a local guide. I leaned against the counter, staring out the kitchen window. The porch light glowed against the damp grass, casting long shadows. A tour guide, I said flatly. Yes, she rushed out. Amanda was supposed to come. She canceled last minute. The hotel booked him to help me get around. It wasn't what it looked like. I let that hang a moment. I've seen the pictures, Jenna. Photos can lie, she said, her voice cracking. You don't know the context. And the video? I asked. The one where you say, no ring, no rules while pressed against him like he's your new home. She went silent. Then a whisper, you saw that? Yeah. Another pause. Then her voice softened into something small and desperate. Michael, please. I made a mistake. No, I said calmly. You made a choice. Her breath hitched. You don't know what it's been like for me. I felt so alone, so suffocated, like everything in our marriage was about what I couldn't do right. I wasn't looking for anything when I got here. I swear to you, don't, I said sharply. Don't rewrite this in real time. You lied to my face. Repeatedly. I panicked. Okay, she pleaded. I didn't mean to fall into anything. It just happened. And that's supposed to make it better? No, she said quickly. But it's the truth. I wanted space to think. That's why I came here. But when I got here, he was kind. He listened. I laughed once, bitter and hollow. Yeah, I'll bet he did. Please, Michael. I don't want this to end like this. We've been through too much. I cut her off. It already ended. You just didn't realize it until I said the words. There was a pause so long, I almost thought she'd hung up. Then, softly, is there anything I can say to fix this? I looked around the kitchen, the photos of us on the fridge, the coffee mug still paired up in the cupboard like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. You could have said something before you flew out there to test how freedom felt, I said. Now you can keep it. I'll come home, she whispered. We can talk. No, I said. We won't. Michael, I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just said it, clear and flat. This is over. She gasped, like the word hit her physically. Then I hung up, unplugged the landline, blocked her on every app, every device. Then I stood in the center of the living room, where her scent still clung faintly to the throw blanket on the couch, and took the first deep breath I'd had in weeks. It didn't fix anything, but it told me I was finally done waiting for her to love me like I hadn't been an afterthought. The house was still. The storm had passed. And the silence that followed? It was exactly what I needed. It was just after 8 a.m. when I heard the knock. Not the soft, hesitant kind either. It was rushed, frantic, repeated. I knew before I opened the door who it was. And I wasn't wrong. Jenna stood there on the porch, still in the same linen travel clothes from her trip, wrinkled, damp from the morning mist. Her hair was tied in a loose knot, and her eyes, they were swollen, red, haunted. She was clutching the same suitcase she'd walked out with. Only this time, she looked like she didn't have the strength to carry it one step farther. Michael, she whispered. Her voice cracked like something inside her had already shattered. Please. I didn't step aside. She stepped forward anyway. I didn't know where else to go, she said, looking up at me, her bottom lip trembling. I thought maybe if you saw me, face to face, you'd listen. I leaned one hand against the doorframe. You've got 5 minutes. Her breath hitched. Okay. She stepped inside slowly, her eyes darting around the house like she was hoping to recognize something familiar. Everything was exactly as she left it. That somehow made it worse. I was wrong, she said quickly. I lied. I broke your trust. I let it all spiral, and I don't even recognize myself anymore. I said nothing. I ended it, she added. With him. I didn't even tell him I was leaving. I just packed up and left in the middle of the night. He doesn't matter, Michael. He never did. You do. This home, us, we matter. I crossed my arms. You made that decision after I caught you. She nodded, biting her lip. Yes, because I was too stupid to see what I was destroying until it was already in pieces. She dropped the suitcase. It hit the floor with a dull thud. She dropped to her knees. I'll do anything, she said, her voice hollow with desperation. I'll go to counseling. I'll quit my job. I'll move out for a while if you want me to. I'll start over from zero. Just, please don't throw us away. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She looked up at me with eyes so wide, so broken, I almost didn't recognize her. I'll be the wife I was supposed to be, she whispered. I stared at her for a long time. Then, Slowly, I said, "You already failed at that." Her breath caught. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "Michael, please. I swear, I didn't go there planning to do any of this." I felt lost. I didn't ask why. I cut in. And I'm not going to play therapist to the woman who walked out on her vows, her home, and then begged me to forget it once it fell apart. She knelt there, trembling. "I don't want to lose you. You already did." I turned and opened the door. For a moment, she just sat there, staring at the wood floor like if she waited long enough, I'd change my mind. But I didn't. "Go," I said. Her hands trembled as she stood. She wiped her face, gathered herself with what little dignity she had left, and picked up the suitcase. At the door, she turned. "Is this really the end?" I met her eyes one last time. "Yeah," I said. "It is." And I closed the door behind her. No yelling, no dramatic goodbyes, just a quiet click. And then silence, the kind that didn't ache anymore. It was a Wednesday, mid-morning, calm, sunlight filtering through the blinds in clean, quiet lines. I just finished my second cup of coffee and was halfway through cleaning the garage when I heard the doorbell. I wasn't expecting anyone. I wiped my hands on a towel and made my way to the front door. When I opened it, he was standing there. The man from the photos. The one Jenna had kissed like I never existed. The one who held her on that beach while I sat at home thinking she just needed time. Up close, he was younger than I'd expected. Mid-30s maybe. Short beard, dark eyes, a little unshaven, wearing a jacket too thin for the season. His hands were folded nervously in front of him. He looked like a kid waiting outside a principal's office. "Michael?" he asked. I didn't answer. I just stared. He cleared his throat and tried again. "You're Michael Trent?" Still nothing. "My name is Raphael," he said, voice low, accented but clear. Listen, please. I just want to talk." I didn't open the door all the way. I didn't invite him in. "You've got about 30 seconds, I said flatly. His eyes darted around the porch, like he wasn't sure whether to stay or run. Then he spoke fast. "I know you found out who I am. About the report. The immigration issue." I stayed silent. "I'm asking you, please, don't push it forward," he said. "I'm not here to fight or cause problems. I didn't know Jenna was married when I met her. She told me she was separated. Said things were over between you two." I smirked bitterly. "That sounds familiar." He shook his head quickly. "I swear I didn't know. And when I did, I told her to talk to you, to figure it out. But she kept coming back." I folded my arms. "And now you're here. Why?" His eyes dropped. "Because I have a sister. She's here too. Not legally. She's sick, very sick. She needs me. I work under the table, pay her bills, get her meds. If I get deported," he trailed off. I stared at him, let the weight of his words hang there for a beat. Then I tilted my head. "If that were true," I said coldly, "you'd be out working, not playing house with someone else's wife on a beachfront vacation." That hit him hard. He flinched, didn't deny it, just stood there, swallowing whatever defense he had left. I kept going. "You came here with tears in your voice, but you didn't seem too conflicted when she was in your lap, calling herself free and happy. So save the sane act. You knew enough to enjoy what wasn't yours." He shook his head, looking down. "I never meant to hurt you." "You didn't hurt me," I said. "She did." He looked up, confused, maybe even hopeful for a second. But I wasn't done. "I'm not pulling anything back," I told him. "You made your choices. And if your situation's real, and that's a big if, you should have thought about that before walking into my marriage like it was some casual rental." He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "Don't." For a moment, he didn't move. Then he nodded, once. "I understand," he said quietly. He turned and walked down the porch steps, his shoulders hunched, suitcase dragging behind him. I watched him all the way to the curb. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel cruel. I just felt done. And for the first time since Jenna walked out with her suitcase, I smiled. Just a little. It had been a week since the divorce papers were stamped and filed. 1 week since I walked out of that courtroom with nothing in my hands, but everything back in my control. No bitterness. No begging. No turning back. That morning, I met Eddie, the private investigator, at a quiet coffee shop near the courthouse. He was already seated at a corner table, sipping something too dark and too strong for the hour. He waved me over with a nod. "Black, no sugar, right?" he asked, sliding a cup across the table toward me. "Still the same," I said, sitting down. "You said you had something?" Eddie leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Raphael's gone, he said bluntly. Picked up by ICE 2 days ago. No paperwork, no visa, nothing. He's already on a plane. I blinked once. That fast. Guess they've been watching him for a while. Your report just moved him to the top of the list. I stared into my coffee for a moment. No satisfaction. No guilt either. Just confirmation. Eddie added. And the story about his sick sister? Fabricated. No medical records. No matching person at any known address. Might not even have a sister. I let out a slow breath. So all of it was a lie. Pretty much. I didn't say anything. Just stirred the coffee slowly, even though I wasn't planning to drink it. Eddie leaned forward. You know, I've done this kind of work a long time. Usually, there's at least some gray area. But this guy? He played the role, clean. Said all the right things to all the wrong people. He paused, then added, so did she. That part didn't sting. Not anymore. Thanks for telling me, I said. Eddie stood and grabbed his coat. You're free now, Michael. Don't waste it. He left me with that. I stayed in the cafe for another 10 minutes. Didn't check my phone. Didn't scroll through photos. Just sat there, listening to the hum of strangers' conversations and the hiss of the espresso machine behind the counter. The cup in front of me was still full, but something in me felt empty in a good way, like a space finally cleared of smoke. No more lies. No more explanations. No more pretending. Just stillness. And strangely, peace. 6 months. That's how long it took for my house to feel like mine again. For the air inside to settle. For the sound of silence to stop feeling like punishment and start feeling like peace. It's strange how healing doesn't show up like some big, dramatic moment. It creeps in, quietly, like waking up one morning and realizing the ache in your chest is gone. And that morning, I realized it was. Claire and I met at a local book club. Yeah, I know. Doesn't sound like something you'd expect from a guy who spent the last year rebuilding from betrayal. But a friend dragged me along one evening, said I needed to get out and be around people who talk about things other than betrayal and drywall. Claire was soft-spoken, thoughtful, the kind of woman who took her time with her words. Her copy of the book that first night had 100 sticky notes poking from the sides. I remember thinking, that's someone who pays attention to what others miss. She didn't ask about my past. She didn't try to fix me. She just listened. And somewhere between coffee after meetings and walks around the lake, I started to feel like myself again. Only this time, better. Now it was mid-December, and we were walking hand in hand through the snowy trails at Danbury Park. The world around us was blanketed in white, branches lined with powder, our boots crunching softly with every step. Claire tugged my arm gently. You're quiet. I'm thinking, I said. Good thinking or dangerous overthinking? I laughed under my breath. The first one. For once. She squeezed my hand. That's progress. We stopped at a bench that overlooked the frozen pond. I pulled out my phone, something I didn't do often anymore, and opened the camera. She leaned into me as I snapped a short video. Just the two of us, bundled up, cheeks pink from the cold, laughing about something unimportant. I posted it with a simple caption. Peace found me. No tags. No backstory. Just that. Claire rested her head against my shoulder. Do you ever wonder if you had to go through all of that to end up here? I thought about it for a moment. Sometimes. But I don't regret where I landed. She nodded softly. Neither do I. There was no noise. No drama. No lies to untangle. No games to play. Just snow falling gently around us. And two people walking forward with no shadows behind them. That was the final lesson. Not everything ends in fire. Sometimes, the cleanest break leads to the clearest peace. That was the end of my story. But I still wonder, if Jenna truly regretted it when she came back, dropped to her knees, and begged me to forgive her, did she do the right thing by returning it all? Or was it just another lie to protect herself? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if this story made you feel something, subscribe, drop a like, and stick around. There's more to come.